I'd like to share a little background with you today before we celebrate a holy meal together. If you'd read all of chapter 11, you'd find out that the first part of the chapter is all about Jesus raising Lazarus. I've preached many times on the first half of chapter 11. This is my first time on the second half. And so the raising of Lazarus in Bethany had forced the Jewish authorities' hand. It was impossible for them to allow Jesus to continue unchecked. Otherwise, the people would follow him in even larger numbers. And so the Sanhedrin was called together to deal with that situation. And in the Sanhedrin, you had both Pharisees and Sadducees. The Pharisees were not a political party. Their sole interest was living according to every detail of the law. They didn't care who governed, as long as they were allowed to continue in meticulous obedience to the law. That's all they cared about. The Sadducees, on the other hand, were intensely political. They were the collaborationist party, if you would. So long as they were allowed to retain their wealth, their comfort, and their position of authority, they were content to collaborate with Rome. All the priests were Sadducees. And it's clear that it was the priests who dominated this meeting of the Sanhedrin. It was the Sadducees who did all the talking. And the one thing that the Sadducees always aimed for was retention of their political and social power and prestige. What they feared was that Jesus might gain a following, especially after raising Lazarus, and create a disturbance against the government. Now, Rome was essentially tolerant, but it could never afford civil disobedience. And it always put it down with a firm hand. If Jesus was the cause of civil disorder, Rome would descend in all her power, and beyond a doubt, the Sadducees would be dismissed from their positions of authority. Their power and authority was everything to them, as I already shared with you. It never even occurred to them to ask whether Jesus was right or wrong. It never occurred to them. That wasn't important to them. Their only question was, what effect would this have on my ease and comfort? That's all they were concerned about. Their ease, their comfort, and their position of power and authority. They judged things not in the light of principle, but in the light of their own career. You know, it's still possible for a person to set their career before the will of God. Then Caiaphas, the high priest, a Sadducee, concerned about his position of power, made his two-edged statement. You don't know anything. Don't you see that it's better for you that one man die for the people rather than the whole nation be destroyed? And to paraphrase the high priest, You bunch of idiots. Don't you realize it's better that for this Jesus to die so that we can keep our power and our influence and our prestige? That's what he was saying. It was a purely political decision. It was cold-blooded and a deliberate enticement to murder. But it carried the day. And from that moment, Jesus was doomed. Jesus was a nuisance to be destroyed. How to do it, they weren't sure yet. But they could wait. The opportunity would come. It is true that God can speak through the most unlikely people. Sometimes he sends his message through a person without them even being aware of it. God can even use the words of bad people. Yes. Caiaphas prophesied while looking out for his own interests that Jesus should die for the nation. Not only for the nation, but that Jesus would also die so that God's children everywhere might be gathered together as one. Jesus loved me. Jesus loved us and gave himself for us. One died for all in order that many, including you and I, might be saved. He saved others. And to win their salvation, he could not save himself. To win us and to save us, Jesus could not save himself. He had to fulfill Caiaphas' prophecy. You know, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever would believe in him shall not